welcome to the second conversation on retirement. Today we will focus on the importance of preparing for retirement and the questions that leaders need to ask themselves as they enter this very important transition in their lives. While financial planning is often spoken about at great lengths when we think about retirement, very often we overlook an equally important part, the part of preparing emotionally and psychologically for the journey that lies ahead. That is the focus of our discussion today. I am Professor Charlene Liu, a full professor at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, and I'm the Managing Director of Sequenza, a consulting firm dealing specifically with behavioral change and interventions and assessment in that space. Again, today I'm joined by one of my favorite scholars, if not my favorite scholar, Dr. Mark Lamberti. Mark Lamberti is well known for his business leadership as an entrepreneur, as a business founder, and dare I say again, he's run 3 companies at executive level as CEO. He has done this in 3 different sectors, and not only that, these were all done at different life cycles of the organization. I was also privileged to co-publish an article in Personnel Review with Dr. Lamberti recently. We titled the article, "Filling the Void, the Underlying Processes of CEO Post-Retirement Role Identity Reformation." Quite a mouthful. If I may translate it, is what goes on in the minds and the hearts of leaders as they go through this process of retirement so that they find a new identity in themselves. Welcome again, Mark. It's a privilege to have you here. Mark, our article, as I said, is called Filling the Void. What is this void that we're referring to when we speak about the context of retirement?
Well, it's kind of a space of no man's land or no woman's land that people come out of after having been involved in this very intense role of being the CEO of a public company. So they're going from the intensity of that with the infrastructure support, with a title, with a group of people around them who are asking questions, and suddenly they go into this void where the only cue is themselves. No one's walking into your office anymore, the emails are not coming in, the phone isn't ringing, none of these things are happening, and suddenly you are the cue, and you start to ask yourself some pretty profound questions when you hit this void, because there's nothing suddenly. I named these questions the big W's. Yeah. They are essentially, the first one is, what am I going to do? You've had this intensity before, all the cues become internal, and the realization that most people don't have is that leisure is only leisure because of work. You can't turn playing golf 3 times a week into a full-time activity. You can't say, because I enjoy a particular sport or pastime, that I'm going to do it all the time. It's only fun because it's a break from work. So you can't turn leisure into a full-time activity, and you have to answer that question, what am I going to do? That's the first big W. The second one is, who am I going to do it with? Because there is a very important social dimension of work. We are having daily interchanges with certain people. For the most part, at the executive level, you are challenged by intelligent people, insiders and outsiders, and there's a social dimension to this, and suddenly, who is that social dimension going to be? And the big question there is, who are your real friends and who are your deal friends? Who are the people that appear to be friends, but there's a transactional motive, and who are the people that really care about you and you can associate with for the rest of your life? And for some people, it's quite a wake-up call to find out that the people that were deal friends disappear quite quickly when they no longer need you. The next question, of course, is, where am I going to do it? Some people have got infrastructure at home, but most CEOs have come out of a situation where they've got backup infrastructure in terms of, secretarial services or IT services or whatever, and then suddenly these people find themselves booking their own flights for the first time. This is quite a scary thing to do if you've never done it for 20 years. So what is your infrastructural support? Then, of course, the next big W is, what do I have to do it with? What are my resources? What are my cognitive resources, my motivational resources, my social and psychological resources? You've mentioned the financial resources. What is my reputation as a resource? And what is my network? And so one starts to say, with all of these things that I'm privileged to have by virtue of a career becoming a CEO, how do I use those resources to create my new life? And then you answer the existential question, which is, who am I? When you've been stripped of all of these things that surround you as a CEO, you suddenly start to ask the real question. Your identity has been defined previously by your role and your company. I think most people have been in a situation where you're in a room and someone walks in and the person sitting next to you says, "Oh, she's the CEO of XYZ." So the immediate basis on which you are recognized is as a CEO of a certain company. Both of those things are gone. Now who are you? You've been also defined, your identity has been defined by your family relationships. You're a father, a spouse, an uncle. Do those things change? And then your identity has been defined by your work friend relationships. Some of those mature into non-work friend relationships, but many of them are just about work. And so what are the work role relationships, and how does that identity change for you? And then, of course, the final question is, who do I hope to become? And here, one of the realities, which is not always easy to face up to, most people are retiring by the policies of their company, maybe when they're 60 or 65. I mean, I think the banks these days are having people retire when they're 62. Now, today, a 62-year-old can be a healthy, vibrant person, and suddenly they are retiring. But your new life has got to take account of the fact that you don't have the energy levels that you might have had when you're 30. Yeah. So you have this convergence of age with the discovery of a new life. And most important of all, I think, is, what is my purpose? Because without purpose, what really makes me wake up in the morning feeling that I'm adding to the world or changing the world or making a difference? And so what do I hope to become is the one that comes in there. So those big W's are the kinds of questions going through people's minds.
Those are very significant questions, Mark. I would really encourage people to write them down and really spend a tremendous amount of time, maybe alone or maybe with the help of a guide, to think through what the answer to each of those questions are. I know these issues are really profound for public company CEOs as they retire, but they can be equally profound for people retiring from a much simpler job. Maybe not all those issues, but there's still the big questions, as you mentioned. Who do I want to become? What am I doing? Can I ask you, what advice would you give people who are about to retire, say in the next 5 years?
Well, I think probably the biggest advice I would give is, not advice, it's an opinion. I think is to approach it in a positive way, because I don't want to use the word retirement because that implies that you're stopping doing things. This move from, let's call it full-time executive life, the 12-hour, 6-7 day a week type jobs, into whatever comes afterwards, that can be a tremendously exciting, joyful time of life. It's not something to be feared. It's something to look forward to and to say, hang on, here's a chance to build on everything that's gone before and to create a new life of purpose and meaning. My advice, and the thing I would underline, if you're 5 years out, in fact, I would underline it for people who are in the early stages of their career. Don't let your business card define you. Don't start to think that your title is who you are, because that title goes away as quickly as you can throw a business card into the rubbish box. So don't let your business card define you. And I think there's a broad body of research that says the things that are important for, let's call it happiness in our mature life, is health. Obviously, that's a big one. If our health goes, everything's gone. Having this purpose, am I going to, make a positive contribution? And of course, for most of the CEOs that I studied, that was totally unrelated to money. None of them needed to earn a cent more. So for them, it was, how do I find a real purpose and make a difference? And of course, the third part is relationships. So without health, without purpose, and without relationships, you're going to tend towards unhappiness. I would add another part, and that is maybe a tinge of humility might be helpful, because we've come from these big positions where when we said jump, people said how high. My father once said to me, the thing that you've got to accept when you become a CEO is that you'll never hear the truth again and you'll never eat bad food. So I say that only jokingly, but there is some humility to required to transition to a new life where you say, hang on, I'm just a person out there. What difference can I make? Can I be happy with my health, my relationships, and my purpose?
Those are wonderful thoughts again. Thank you so much, Mark. My challenge to everybody out there again is probably to go through these questions and really think very hard and earnestly about your life and where you're heading. It's in these times of utmost transitions that we often go through that we are forced to answer these questions. And it's so much better to do so earlier on when one is able to take the time and reflect deeply. One of those questions that stood out most for me is the question of identity. In developmental psychology, we often think of identity that's formed fully in one's mid-20s. But in fact, as we go through every life transition, we need to ask that question again: who am I and who do I want to be? And retirement obviously is one of these very, very significant changes in our life. For me as well, I think many of the things you said, Mark, is about not only self-actualizing and becoming the most that you can be, that one does in all one's career, striving for success and achievement, but retirement offers a fantastic opportunity for self-transcendence, to think, who am I beyond myself? What can I contribute to this world? Where's my true meaning? And to really get to where you wanted to go. And you've used that word purpose a couple of times. And I think that's what I want to challenge people to think about. Who do I really want to be in this busyness of my career? Who do I really want to be? And what real meaning do I want to bring to others? So that by the time I get to my retirement, I'm ready for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlene.